Agreed.
I've really been trying to make you miserable this morning.
Oh, yeah. Why is that?
I just feel like it. I think that sometimes the best friend I can be to you is the meanest friend I can be to you.
You know, well, and I
Gross.
was a little ticked off at you this morning.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I showed up to the ranch, and you did not open the gate for me.
Correct.
And I hate it when that remote is down.
I know. We had to test the alternate opening system, which is you getting off your butt, getting out of your car.
My
Like, getting
heated
the gate
leather
open.
seats.
Yeah. Off your heated leather sheets. You're so bougie. You play the clean, dapper Dan side of the house so well. And unfortunately, I think I fit the Neanderthalish side.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to encourage you in the future. When I lean on that horn, I mean it.
Oh, goodness.
Is it wrong that I was secretly hoping you were going to be running on the midnight road again? You know, the dark road.
The only concern I'd have is that you'd be hoping that so you can run me over.
That's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah, exactly. I do have green flashing lights on, though, now. So it'll be harder for you to justify. I guess you just have to pick the lights up after you hit me.
Hard to get away with it in court,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, just make the lights disappear once you hit me. All right, guys, you heard it here. If I get hit by Aaron, it was not an accident. And I do wear those lights. So don't let them lie to you. All right. Today, we want to explore hunger is the best seasoning as a concept.
Ooh, I like this topic.
Yeah.
Hunger as a seasoning. Huh?
Yeah, hunger is the best seasoning
Okay. Yeah.
as a topic, right? And like just carte blanche, like what the heck are we going to do with that? Well, I think it's talking about gratitude, right? I think it's talking about desire. Like if you mix gratefulness when a desire is fulfilled, right, with the strength of that desire, it makes whatever that thing is sweeter. So looking at the simple analogy, hunger is the best seasoning. You know, if you just had a large meal, whatever you're eating in the next 5 minutes is probably not going to be as satisfying as if you've not eaten for 3 days. Whatever you're given at that point is probably going to taste amazing, even if typically it may not. And it kind of is a tongue-in-cheek way of saying, like, oh, when you really need something, it's going to be amazing, regardless of your normal standards.
Well, I think everyone's experienced this when like when you go through some kind of a trial and on the other side of it, everything just tastes sweeter. I think just a very basic example would be if you've ever gone on a long hike and you stop and have a meal, it's the best meal you've ever tasted in your life. You know, I don't know why camp bacon tastes better than house bacon. Other than there's something about, like, if you ever tent camped and it's like, you know, it's cold, or you get up in the morning and you're kind of sitting there, and then that coffee tastes great, and the bacon that's sizzling on the fire is great, and you're kind of surrounded by kind of a uncomfortable situation, but it makes all the reward that much sweeter. All the things that you are enjoying. If you've ever done, like, do the Manitou Incline and get down, and I've talked to many people, they go to the burger place down there, and that burger tastes freaking amazing. But why? It's the same burger. It's the same bacon. It's the same coffee. In fact, in many times, it's worse than what you typically would have, but it somehow tastes better. Why?
Yeah, and it's funny because I got the quote from Little House on the Prairie, actually, because it's one of the series we're going through with the kids, and these travelers go through and they're just enamored with Ma's cooking, and they're going to have to batch it up, you know, live bachelor style for a bit, so cook for themselves. And he's like, will you please write these down? And she's just, you know, they're showering her with compliments, and she's like, well, hunger's the best seasoning, you know, just a really humble way of being like, you're loving this because you're starving.
Yes.
But like the fun thread to pull on, and it's what you're talking about, and like the level of severity of circumstances you live through,
Yep.
really further and further illustrates it, right? Like if you almost die of thirst, that's the best glass of water you've ever had in your life. You'll never be able to duplicate it. It could be puddle water.
Yeah.
Right? But it saves you. And that mentality comes in a lot of things, and I think it turns into something that we can actually use and create. But, you know, yesterday we were talking about friendship, relationships that are positive in our lives, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? I love having good friends to celebrate life with, right? Like I love cracking some beers, throwing some meat on the grill, whatever. That's fun. But you know what? That crowd is oftentimes bigger too.
Yeah.
Like, and I love it. It's so much fun. It's one of the joys of life, and I'm grateful for it. But I am grateful with a desperation and exuberance that is unparalleled when I'm going through hell.
Yeah.
And I have friends come alongside me. Those, like when that happens, it's like, okay, it's nice to have friends around the barbecue.
Right.
It is life changing to have friends going through hell.
Man, you hit it. Like, because, if we use the barbecue as sort of like where everything's kind of surfacey, maybe, so everyone's having fun, that kind of thing. And that's good. We should have rest and joy and celebration and those kind of things. But there's a lot of times where suffering is very much in the front of the mind of the person, and that party's noise is not doing anything, and they're quietly suffering inside. And it's one thing to have an encouraging word from a friend when life is grand, but it is absolutely critical when there's a private hell being lived through, and all of a sudden that the sweetness of an encouraging word is unlike you've ever tasted before.
Well, I think it's because it gets quieter when things get harder, right? Like there, when there's not what is it? If you give a lot of gifts, you'll have a lot of friends, right? When you have abundance, it's just easier to have more. So it's like if you have a pantry and fridge full of food, you're going to hopefully still appreciate your food, but it's like, I have food. What am I going to eat? You have choice, and it's not like the gratitude is not the same, right? I think we all just kind of routinely pick what fancies us the most and eat it and don't think about it as much as we could, and how amazing it is that we have a cold receptacle filled with food in a pantry. Like these are cool things, right? And it's just the reminder, it's so visceral because if you've ever gone hungry and then you get that meal, it's like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
In the same way, if you've ever gone through that desert, like that time of desperation, of darkness in your life, and the friends whoever in your life actually jumps into that darkness with you to push through it, it's like, wow, I enjoy having fun with people, but that was life-changing.
Right.
I'll never forget you.
Right.
It's different.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're faced, like what you said, where it's quieter, it feels like if you've ever experienced, like if you're going through grief and you walk into a crowd and you can't hear it, you can't hear the laughter anymore. You can't, like, it's just like this low buzz, and you're kind of like a dead man walking. The quietness is terrifying. And there's a suspicion, there's a lie that creeps in that says, there is no satisfaction. There's nothing that will meet. Like maybe I'll just die of thirst.
It's interesting because I feel like you're pulling on a different thread, and I want to explore it.
Yeah.
But I keep hearing this kind of "don't bring your summer to my winter" type of thing. Like hey, everyone's because what I was saying is like, oh, when times are good and you're celebrating, you have all these people, and it's fun, and it's great. But then when times are desperate and that one or two people jump, like that one person or those two people jump in with you, it's like their value is worth more than 10 times what you had in the good times.
Yep.
And then, so that's what we started. And then what I'm hearing is, yeah, but what in you're going through good times collectively, but personally, quietly, privately, you're going through hell or winter or darkness, right? Like, and pull on that more.
Yeah. When like the 10 acquaintances aren't even worth the one person who's that cold cup of water when you're going through a difficult time.
Yeah.
And I also want to say too that these things are necessary. Like I don't want to speak ill of suffering in the sense that like we should avoid it. I mean, I think suffering is one of those things that just shows where you're weak, and you'll then be hungry for the way to get strong. And the way you get strong you're going to be seeking things that you weren't seeking before, and your comfort. It will change you. You'll come out of the suffering, and if you do it right, and if you have the right, you got to have an occasional cup of water if you're going to get through the desert, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to get one every day, though. It's not going to be comfortable. But when you're going through hell, it's just like it's just what it is. It's not gonna. Someone telling you, oh, it's gonna be okay, and oh, let's just get through this really quick. That's not necessarily the words you say to that person. It's just sort of like, okay, how can I suffer with you a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
What can I do to walk through that?
Well, what I think you just hit on that's really important is like if you're going through a tough time, it's not that the friend rescues you. It's that they go through the fight with you.
Though they desperately want to.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They want to save you, you know. That's
Yeah.
definitely there, but they can't.
So it's the choice to go through it with you,
Yeah.
right? Like, and looking at that, there are ways that as a friend, or I'm thinking specifically like as a father, right? I can stop discomfort for one of my sons if they're in a circumstance. But oftentimes I have to deliberately choose to stay my hand
Yep.
and allow whatever discomfort they're experiencing to persist so that they can learn from it.
Yeah. So it could be their teacher.
But it's within the confines still of my oversight and protection, right? That's
Yeah.
the great thing that they get in having a father, right, or a parent who can do that. Is like, I'm going to make sure this doesn't kill you, but I'm not going to save you. That is a choice. And it's to their betterment, right? And I think that there's a lesson in that also when you're dealing with friends. Like, you can't rescue someone from their own garbage. No. If they're going through something that's self-inflicted, you can't save them. Mm-hmm. And if you do, you're just going to repeat the function and create a cycle. So, like, I think that's pretty true most of the time. But you can walk through the struggle with them as they learn to save themselves.
Yep.
Right? As they learn to navigate it themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's a critical distinction in there. I'm not sure if I'm saying it well, but I think that distinction is life-changing because, like, look at the dependency that a lot of kids have on their parents. Mm-hmm. If the parents just try to make life easy for the kids and protect them and insulate them, then they're ill-prepared for life, and you see kids not leaving the house till their 30s.
Yeah.
Wow.
Scoff noted.
Scoff note, just wow, right? Yeah, right? And it's like, man, why? Well, because you never coached and trained your children to become resilient to face life.
Yeah.
To become strong enough to face life. It's the same with friendships, though. Like, and I can't help but think when I want to save a friend who's going through a hard thing, it's showing an insecurity in me.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can I walk with them so that I make sure they don't get destroyed and help them to the best of my ability, but not rob them of the joy of the lesson of their experience?
That's when hunger as the best seasoning is. What we're really joking about is the fact that, you know, it's like a parent who's arguing with their kid about food. It's like, hey, I'll tell you what. I mean, you don't have to eat that. All I have to do is wait. I'm not giving you anything else. You know, I grew up. My dad, if I complained about the chicken, he'd wrap it, and that's what we had for breakfast. You know, that's just how that worked.
I love it.
It's just to this day, I'm kind of ruined for when my kids leave a bite on the plate. You know, it's like hunger will heal that problem of you folding your arms at the situation.
Yeah, I do love that analogy because it's just like, you don't want to eat it? That's fine. You want something else? No. I'm not even upset. Time will do its work.
Exactly. I don't have to do anything.
Your stomach will turn on you and you will love this meal. Like, it was made with love. You will love it when you eat it. I don't care if that's till tomorrow or the next day.
I love. Isn't it great how it's built into us?
It is, yeah.
So hunger is a form of suffering, but at the same time, it points us to something that could give us joy.
Well, it's a motivator.
Yeah, it's a great motivator.
It's a necessity.
Yeah,
because if you don't eat, you die.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I do think there's different types of suffering, and that there's real changes there, right?
Yeah.
There's suffering like what we're talking about right here, where like you're hungry and that's a necessity. Then there's suffering like you lose your spouse to a car accident, right? Mm-hmm. There's no reason for that.
Yeah.
Right. There's nothing that doesn't make that suck.
Mm-hmm. So then what are you hungering for in that suffering?
Well, and that suffering, there's loss, right? So
Yeah.
like I'm imagining, if you're in that position, like that's definitely don't bring your sunshine to my winter. And I don't think that it's all tongue in cheek and fun, but I do think that there's benefit, and perhaps one of the benefits that you can create out of that despair is choosing to live a life that honors the departed and creates a better version of yourself in spite of the loss.
Yeah.
Because I don't know many people who love each other who don't want their partner to do better if they were gone. Who don't want their partner to do better if they're gone. I think one of the sacrificial pieces of love is like, hey, if I'm gone, I want you to continue to thrive and grow and live a vibrant, fulfilling life.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't think that living in despair forever is part of that equation, though a necessary season of grief. So it's like, I just want to counterbalance it because I do think that there's suffering that is without reason, but reason can be, there's at least redeeming qualities that can be forged out of the pain and the loss to create value.
So here's just a complex thoughts rattling around my head. So if hunger is going to be the motivator that we're using to accomplish something that's good, then maybe we just ought to ask ourselves, what are we hungry for? And is it noble? Is it worth being hungry for? Are we satisfying our hunger with the right things? Because hunger is a good thing. Like it's a form of suffering that leads to you going and finding the thing that satisfies it, right? So I would say, like in the grief situation, I hope that you're desperately hungry for healing and wholeness again, not my life is over. And I hope that also the person is thinking about what other people would want for them too. And I'm even thinking like Jordan Peterson here too. Like he gives a great example about how someone who was near to a suicide victim blamed themselves and just beat themselves up. What could I have done? What could I have said or whatever? And Jordan asks her, he says, hey, have you asked your husband the same things? Like, what could he have done to do something better? And she says, oh, absolutely not. And he said, why would you do that to yourself? And friends have a way of turning it back on us and going, hey, I don't want this for you, and I need you to agree with me.
Yeah.
I want you to hunger for the right thing because there is a path that will heal you. And I want to make sure that it's directed, the energy's corrected, or is going towards the right direction.
I can't help but think when you look at that, it's like you can't avoid, right? Like if you have to go through the stages of grief, you need to embrace it. If you have to embrace whatever the problem is so that you can gain understanding of it enough that you can move forward. Right? And looking
it takes
at
time.
Yeah,
it takes time to do that.
It takes time, but also takes the choice to look at it.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's stages of grief for a reason, but that requires you to walk through them.
Yeah.
You have to embrace them. And it's the same with a lot of this suffering. And you made a comment, is it worth hungering for? And I think that's a really good question. I, at least myself, and I think that this is fairly true of human nature, have the propensity to stop desiring what I have for what I want, right? And it's interesting, though, because if there's a few just simple exercises you can walk yourself through that can, like, just like good medicine when you're really sick or a good meal when you're really hungry, can completely change the script. And one example would be like just to start counting what your blessings are. What am I grateful for, and why am I grateful for them? Right? There's actually large bodies of scientific studies that show changes in people's lives just from doing that. Right? And one of the questions I asked myself earlier this week is, what would I have said 3 years ago, John from 3 years past, if someone had told them, hey, what would it be like if you had, and then listed what my life is like today? Right? I know for a fact, after thinking about it for a little bit, that 3 years ago, John would be like, how do we get there? Who do I have to hurt? What do I have to win? Who do I have to help? What do we have to build?
I get all those things. That's great.
I want to get there now, right? Like, I want to be there. Yes, right? And it's like, oh my goodness, imagine the enthusiasm of who you were 3 years ago to be who you are today, right?
And that same excited John 3 years ago, what if I told him, hey, there'll be days when you're just totally ungrateful for all those things that you have?
It'd make you angry.
You're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, you
What's wrong with him?
ungrateful turd, right? You ungrateful turd. But it's interesting too, because like I just thought of a counterpoint there. What if 3 years ago you wish and you told about what your life was now, and that version's like, I want to stay where I am. That's a rebuke, right?
That'd be terrifying.
That would be terrifying.
Yeah.
And maybe there's circumstances that you're walking through. Like 3 years ago, I had my wife and she died, right? I would say that's outside of this in that journey.
Yeah.
But if it's because of the choices I've made in life have meant that my quality of life, how I'm living, how I'm interacting with myself and those around me is deteriorating, then that is where that's a condemnation. That's where that's a rebuke of like, if the 3 years past you doesn't find it hard to imagine being where you are now, then there's a how you are experiencing and interacting with life problem.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there should be a massive difference. I think that's a rebuke we all need to have. It's like, have I changed in 3 years? Have things gotten better? And to the point of talking to the past person, and if to say that, hey, the future version of you is going to be upset about this or that, you're talking about gratitude as sort of an antidote to dealing with the suffering in a sense, like, because we have a tendency to really focus on the negative things when there's so many amazing things that are happening around us, like really good things. And so, like, why is future John upset? Oh, well, he got a flat tire, and his job is tough, or whatever. His kids are very energetic and they make him tired. He's upset that he's upset at the very things that bless him.
Well, it's those petty things, and it's like we forget the goodness of the situation because of the flies or the irritants.
Right.
It's like,
yeah.
Like 3 years ago, I was gone 9 months out of the year, like every year, and now I'm working from home 90% of the time.
That's the dream. Yeah.
So it's
compared to that reality, gosh.
And there's a lot of circumstantial changes in that, but it's like, goodness gracious, like you could have your circuit, and to me, it just goes back to gratitude is so powerful, yet so unusual to practice.
Yes.
It's so unusual to practice.
That's what we're talking about, is cultivate. Ultimately, the core of this issue is we're cultivating gratitude because it's the same burger, it's the same bacon, it's the same coffee. You're just more grateful for it.
It's perspective.
You're just more grateful for it.
It's perspective. And it's interesting because hardness, struggle, suffering is a natural focusing agent, right? It puts you in the mind state of gratitude. Being full, having abundance, being comfortable puts you in the opposite, right? Now you're being bothered by the slight irritants, like the small things. And that's one of the reasons that we're like, at least I know you are too, so I'll just say we are such huge proponents of doing hard, difficult physical challenges and getting our hands dirty and doing physical projects and doing all these different things and pushing ourselves because we can create some artificial temporary suffering in our lives.
It's like our test tube.
Yeah, to keep us to keep the minds appreciative of when we're not doing those things. So it's like, and guess what? That's just preparation. Life's not going to be like, people are not naturally good. Life's not going to be great. Like life is going to have valleys with the rises,
This is why we talked about loving labor, not leisure, because leisure is sweetened by great labor. And like, I love the value of sitting in a chair after putting in a really hard physical work day or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, don't you just love that moment? Like, it's satisfying. It feels great, but you have to earn it.
How crazy is it even to think that sitting down in a chair is a reward, right? Like, that's a good example of the types of things here.
Simple. That's the thing. It doesn't, everything, the taste of things, 'cause like we're saying, hunger is a great seasoning. I think what we try to do for seasoning is we try to purchase the thing for the seasoning, and really it's not purchased with money, it's purchased with effort. And that's what makes it taste so good. Make your own meal once, it'll taste better. It's weird.
Well, it's interesting because it's like a lot of people are like, time is money, right?
Yeah.
But really, time's time. Like you just said, it's purchased with effort. You can't get a second back. You can't get a minute. You are not going to be able to earn the hour you just spent back.
Yep.
But you can earn more money. So it's like, really, no, time is time. And if you're not jealous of your time, you're liable to waste it.
Yep.
You know, I just saw this idea. It was like, Netflix isn't $17.99 a month. It's your time. Social media isn't free. It costs your focus, right? And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like that's a powerful way to look at it.
Yep.
And then right after that, I was having a conversation with Billy. I'm forgetting the name of the episode. It wasn't Just Do It. Just Commit. Just Commit from back. But we were talking yesterday, and he ended up sending me some things. And one of them that was really cool is it was this like little Instagram post from a dude named Emmanuel. I want to say Acho if I mispronounced it. I apologize. But I have no idea who that guy is. But what he said was pretty profound. I loved it. And it was, people fail to achieve what they want most for what they want now. And
that is interesting. Want most for want now.
And that goes back to this whole perspective thing, right? Like there's stories of people who give up their inheritance for a bowl of soup.
Yeah.
Because they're starving.
That's what we're trying to talk about, is we're trying to take the same things you're going to get in this world, and we want them to taste sweeter. We want you to enjoy it more. But it's not going to be like, if you fast track it without going through the process, it will never taste as sweet as you want it to.
Well, and also there's the factor of how do you, in the day-to-day when things are good, cultivate the strength to say no to the things that out of desperation you want now.
Right.
Or out of weakness or laziness or insert whatever you want now for the thing that you're truly working and desire most.
Yeah, it's,
because
it's Esau trading his inheritance for the stew now. Like I need satisfaction over an inheritance. Like that's what's greater.
What I want most is to be the best version of myself.
Yeah.
What I want now, or not right this second, but what I want tonight is a couple beers. What I want tonight is to not push intentionally into time with my wife. What I want tonight is to use some stupid excuse not to be present with my kids, right? But that's not what I want most.
Yeah.
And and in my mind, it's how do I create the disciplined response to say no to the things I want now for the things that I desire most so that they can come to fruition.
Yep.
Part one. And then part two is how do I keep a grateful mentality that doesn't cause me to begin to spurn that which I desired most in the past. And I'm walking through now on this continued like crazy thing called journeying life, whatever.
Yeah.
And
you have to experience it though to understand that, because what you're chasing right now is being more deeply satisfied with which you already have for you, without taking shortcuts, without spending time on just your own interest that only serve you. You're going, what if I really commit to having deeper intimacy with my wife and closeness with my kids, and really show up at my job and really be a great friend? That's what I want.
Well, for some reason, when you said the intimacy with my wife and invest in all those relationships that are critical, I would. I can't remember where I heard this, but someone's like, everyone's always saying the grass is greener on the other lawn. False. The grass is greener when you water it.
That's right. That's right.
When you water it. It's like, you want to have a better relationship with your wife, invest in it.
Exactly.
Right? It's a mutual journey.
Yeah.
Which is funny. Talking about the love, labor, not leisure. And we talked about the journey, right? And there are some things that I think I've discovered in reflection that further some of the thoughts that we were exploring there. So we, in that you had mentioned that you realize when people become an obstacle You're too focused on the reward or the victory or the finish line of whatever you're working on. And when people are
The problem.
a benefit, right? Because
No,
they're
benefit,
already
benefit, yeah.
because they're already the obstacle or problem.
Right.
When people are not the obstacle or problem, but instead are beneficial to the process, then you realize you're focusing more on the journey. And I realized, like, and one of our entire premises in that conversation that I walked away with is like, we want to focus on the journey, right? We want to make sure that we're aligned with the correct mission and vision and the purpose and being and why, belief that we're doing it. And that's what we're aiming for. And we take account of that. But we really want to focus on the journey of the daily step. And where I got more from this in reflection was, am I enjoying the journey?
Yeah.
Or am I journeying? So my focus is in the right area, but I'm filled with angst and just checking the block to get it all done in a manner that's too task driven and not savoring the fruit of life, the joys of life, right? Because it's like, why would I, if I'm on the journey, but I'm just grinding, I'm not enjoying time with, like, I'm not enjoying the time I have with my bride. I'm not enjoying the time I have with my kiddos, with my friends, because I'm just trying to continue the journey, then that's another perversion of this.
Yep.
Right? If I'm too focused on winning and everyone's in the way, perversion number one, falling short, I'm missing the mark. Number two is if I'm so focused on the journey that I'm not enjoying the the natural rhythms of it, the natural opportunities to live now, that's another miss. And that comes back to the hunger's the best seasoning. Am I walking first and foremost with the gratefulness for the things that I'm experiencing now as if it was a meal that's saving me from starvation?
Absolutely. And I will say, and I'll add to that, is that if there's something that you're hungering for besides those things, then think about making them inaccessible or make it very difficult to get to it. Because if you want TV more than you want time with your kids, that is the wrong hunger. And that's something that's getting you away from actually really hungering towards the thing that really will satisfy.
Yeah, it's an appetite suppressant, right? It's a
just remove
cheap,
it. Yeah,
false. It's like eating a candy bar when you need a meal, like you need nourishment.
You'll be irritated. I mean, it's like that's the classic, like, just lazy dad, like sitting on the couch. I need my TV time, and if someone keeps me from that game, I'm just going to be irritated. Well, how about this? Just take the game off the table. You don't get the game. Yeah. You don't get any of that. Now what are you hungering for?
I saw this awesome. As I was running this morning, I heard this awesome rebuke to like the whole that whole stereotypical garbage you just mentioned, where it's like, and now you see it on both ends. So it's like really scary. Poor kids, right? Both parents come home from work and they're like, I need to rest and recharge. And the kids are like, well, I'm just a kid. You chose to have me. So it's like, can I be loved? But it was such a great rebuke to the sentiment of like, I went and worked hard today, whoever's saying it. And it was like, fool, you better be working hard. You live in America. If you don't have a job, what are you doing? Guess what? If you were single, you'd still be working. If you were single, you'd still have a job.
Right.
So don't use that as a petty excuse. You're doing the bare minimum. You're not doing anything special.
That's right.
Get the job done. Don't act like you've done something. You're no hero.
That's right.
I loved it.
Get better friends, because if they're not challenging you in that area, that's a little concerning. Yeah,
I love it.
Disconcerting, yeah.
So looking through what we talked about, let's see if this drugs anything up from your end. But just kind of reflecting on what we've explored so far, it's like, okay, we've been playing with this idea of hunger is the best seasoning, and what that really has boiled down to is, are we approaching life with the correct gratitude and the correct things?
Yeah.
Like, are we being intentionally grateful and allowing that to fuel what we're motivated for, so that it's worth pursuing what we want most, over creating the discipline to say no to what we want now, and to live presently in that state of gratefulness and appreciation, for things.
Absolutely. And that's what we want to encourage everyone here, and starting with us at the table here, is that this suffering is actually really worth it, because you're actually headed towards an amazing meal that you will just enjoy every bite of.
If you don't waste it.